Lost control.
I've lost control.
Oh, wait,
First order of business is to approve the minutes of the October 24th meeting. Can I get a motion? Thank you, Betty, and a second by Danny. Corrections or additions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, we are on to our informational items, and I'm going to take these a little bit out of order. We are going to start with the Regional Office of Education.
I don't know if you're prepared for this level of awesomeness today, but here we go. I would like to remind you that I am a part of the Regional Workforce Alliance, which is co-chaired by Joshua Dunn from the Chamber and Sheila Quirk-Bailey at ICC. My pillar that I'm co-chair of is the Emerging Workforce Alliance. All things working with students to find their passion for college and career readiness. Okay, so I'm the co-chair of that with Camila Williams from ICC. Our signature event is Career Spark, and our new video just dropped. So here's what to watch for. Watch for the children performing robotic surgery with the actual tools inside a pumpkin. The engineering piece, and my personal favorite, the number one most popular part of this video is when they delivered the calf from the mom. And it's spectacular. So this is Career Spark 2023.
So we're at Career Spark, and there's 8th graders here learning about what kind of opportunities they have in the greater Peoria area for their future career goals.
My favorite booth was architecture, engineering, construction. I really like to build stuff. I think this was a fun field trip. All my friends and I had a fun time learning about all the different career paths we could take.
I had a great time here, and I would love to come back sometime.
Wow,
My favorite part was the agriculture section because I want to be an equine animal specialist when I grow up.
My favorite part was healthcare because I want to be a nurse practitioner.
Yeah, there's been a lot of great interaction. The fact that Junior Treatment's doing this is fantastic. It's going to help build a community, kind of see what options are out there for the future.
So there's a wide variety of industries for 8th grade students to explore. It fits perfectly with the curriculum that they're doing inside their classroom, and then they come to the expo and they get hands-on experience for things that they can do in their careers. The expo is a great place for businesses to get involved and showcase what they have to offer, and PNC is very proud to have been a part of this for the past 7 years.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That is.
That cow, though, it has the longest lines. It has kids from inside the city, outside the city. 4,000 students went through that this year. It takes 500 volunteers. I work every day and I'm a bouncer. So if you notice the backpacks, we coordinate those colors by school. So you have to stay in your zone. So if I see you with the red backpack over there, it is my job to say, you're back in the engineering zone. Because they start seeing each other and they start thinking like, hey, I'm at the club. Hey, they're listening. Nope, you're here to experience careers. That's my job. But most of them, oh my goodness, they are so engaged. And there is so many different things for them to try. I saw some ooze on the pig lungs. Those are real pig lungs. They are intubating them. Okay? And we have had kids get woozy and pass out. And we're like, oh, great. You don't want to be a doctor, so come on and try something else. There's all kinds of career fields. So research shows that kids don't decide in 8th grade what they want to do, but they do decide what they don't want to do. So it starts them off on a career path of thinking of some new things. It's so popular that we have started a new high school experience called Career Spark You're Hired. It's virtual and it's more in-depth, trying to connect them to apprenticeships, internships, and job shadows in the area based on some of these experiences. And we did a bunch of videos. I did one for education because we're always looking for people, but there are live videos, interviews with people all throughout Central Illinois to try to align them to different careers and their interests. We have people as far as Bloomington Normal come through this, all over Tazewell. It's a greater Peoria endeavor. It's not just Peoria County 8th graders. Okay, so is this where we're giving the updates? I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay.
How was the attendance for the Peoria County schools? What % of the schools had attendance?
I harass them until they sign up, and I ask for the updated roster, and I go after my schools that don't sign up, and I think I have just a few. All of PPS, all of Dunlap, all the Limestone, almost all the Limestone. There's a few that don't. So, but I go after them if they don't sign up to try to get them there. If they don't come, it's usually because of transportation. So it's 2 full days. Morning break, more kids come either in the morning or the afternoon on one of the 2 days. It's the same experience all 4 times, but it is exhausting if you are the volunteer. I had 26,000 steps that day. It's a lot because it's in the, remember where the March Madness experience was in the Civic Center is the birthday meetings.
If someone wanted to find that Career Spark video, where would that?
I can send it to you. That's just a YouTube link, but that is Career Spark is based on a junior achievement actual product that they have, and they were running in Indianapolis, and several years ago we went and checked it out and said, yep, we want it here. So it's basically the junior achievement and the GPEDC together are the logistic. Well, Caterpillar did all the logistics for us, but they're the backbone behind it, and then the rest of us are just volunteers.
The next level, the interactive one, where do you find that at?
That is more, that's not exactly a link, that's more like a portal. But if you want to email me specifically, I can hook you up to get you a demo. If you want to get in, I'm sure they can give you a link to go in there and check it out. Career videos are really interesting. All right, then I have just a few other updates. Number one, I wanted to give you a school safety update. With our $900,000 new federal grant, we've hired a new director of that. He is off and running and meeting with our districts here in the area. And with that money and some other money that we're braiding together, we are hosting the I Love You Guys. If you don't know who they are, they're from Colorado. They are experts in the field, especially on reunification. And they are expensive, like really expensive. So the only way we're able to do this is with these grant dollars. And so we're going to have them here for 2 days in January and try to run 300 administrators through this program outside of Peoria County as well, so that they get the experience. And then there's a follow-up. I saw that Roger Alvey out at Illini Bluffs, who's always at the forefront of this kind of stuff, has worked with Jason Marks. They're going to host a big tabletop experience in June. So that's school safety. Number 2, violence prevention and truancy. I have that kind of hooked together in my mind because any child that commits violence, there was always truancy first. I'm always saying that to you all. So our student support specialist, that's our truancy folks, are out there knocking on doors, leaving door hangers, finding kids. We've hired a new family support specialist. If we find a situation that is really difficult, we have the family support specialist do the next level of intervention. So we've been building out what does it look like to do the first level, what does it look like to do the second level, and we have a meeting now finally on the books, Children's Home, who is the state designated highest tier. The problem is incredibly serious. So we're trying to connect with them so that we're all on the same page with how we're intervening with these families. Honest to goodness, I don't know how a family even could come. You go in one door and you get this information, and so like what if you go to your primary care doctor, or if you go to this agency or this agency or this agency? We're trying to focus our efforts and get everyone rowing in the same direction with that. And then I just happened to get this today, so I brought it if you want to see it. I just got this homeless report students experiencing homelessness or that are unhoused. And so we are at a total this year of 439 students in Peoria County. I highlighted the Peoria County. It's not all of our schools, but sometimes school's not the priority if you're experiencing homelessness or if you're experiencing a situation that would cause you to be on this list, like you're doubled up or you're living with grandma. School becomes less of a priority, and so 439 kids are experiencing that. If you would want to see that, I brought those numbers.
How confident are we that we're capturing that? That's a good number versus that's still not capturing.
Way low.
Okay, that's why I wanted to make sure we understood that.
Because there's stigma with that. I don't want people to know I'm living with grandma or I'm doubled up. What this really doesn't capture is the number of our high school students that are just living bedpost to bedpost. And we see that a lot in the Manual High School District and the Peoria High School District, where they're just moving where there's a warm place to stay or a place that will let them stay there. So that's one number I know we don't have captured. Anyone wants to see that? I'll just leave this here on the table.
Is that all? Any other questions? Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Next, let's go to about sustainability and resources.
Sure. 2 minutes. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Get a new routine going here, right?
That's right.
Sorry, you can hear me. Everyone turn around. Sorry. I'll just pull out a few of the highlights from the agenda brief in your packet. Electronics collection, not much has changed there. Still identifying some partners for the 2024 application to CERA, which is the Consumer Electronics Recycling Act, which helps to fund not only Kusakowski, our permanent site here for Peoria County, but also a couple of one-day collections. We did add West Peoria as a partner. They're already doing some electronics collection, and that's something that can be covered under that CERA funding. So supporting them. Composting, I just have a quick highlight. Hopefully the community news. We did do some interviews earlier this month. Hopefully an article will be scheduled for December on composting, and that's really the driver for that was Chicago releasing their some information around their drop-off composting. So very similar to the 90s recycling drop-off. Here in Peoria County, we do have a couple kiosks, one purchased by us, and then others all are run by Better Earth Logistics. So it's a bit about that program. So watch for that, please. Extended producer responsibility. We did receive an award for $5,000 for Sharps collection. So we applied for that and intend to apply for it again. The IEPA was a little short on staff, so it took a while to get some info back on that, but excited to have some Sharps collection options for folks in Peoria County. I'll move to Regional Food Council. We do have a meeting this Friday, December 1st. Two project applications were submitted from our area for the Local Food Procurement Act. USDA is funding a ton of local foods programs. Another grant opportunity came out today that I forwarded to Beth. We've been working with the Illinois State Board of Education. Beth mentioned Illini Bluffs, again, also the leader in this area for local foods for us. So they are using ISB money that's been acquired and also working with some of the local food procurement folks in our area. Midwest Food Bank applied, and then also Farm Fed Co-op, which is actually out of Lincoln, but would service our area as well. Sustainability updates. I neglected to put the holiday lights collection program in the agenda brief. I apologize for that. It is ongoing, and we'll be going through January 8th. We have 6 locations in the community, one here at the courthouse and also one at the jail, and a few drop-offs for employees as well. The JDC high efficiency boiler is installed and is running. Hearing good things. They are happy to have it. I talked to Ryan Breedlove today. So that is going, and again, that was a public sector natural gas incentive that we applied for, which funded the entire project, as well as the burner here at the courthouse that went into. I think it went live, not live, but it was installed and running by very beginning of the year. So we have a full 9 months of looking at that data that you'll see on the usage information that's included in the packet. Jumping ahead. So I have only included the therms and the kilowatt hours for all of the buildings. I didn't pull out any individual buildings or departments. It's for everybody collectively. Again, looking at the 2011 numbers, that included Bellwood. 2020 included Headington Oaks. 2022 still had Peoria County Health Department on there, City County Health Department on there. So you will see some, definitely see the numbers are down for both therms and kilowatt hours. But I also want you to realize that a lot of that can be attached to a couple projects, a couple larger projects. The custom lighting incentive project that we got, which were the variable air volume controls that went into effect in the middle of 22, which we had the flow meter for the chilled water, and then also the 3 air handlers units were covered, 22 VAVs were covered with that. The dishwasher at the jail changed to electric from natural gas. That helps with pests as well, less steam. And then also has really made a big difference in efficiency in how much they're using, just much more efficient than what they had before. And then also the courthouse burner did go into effect, and is a big reduction in natural gas usage for this building, and that's reflected in the full 9 months that are there. So unless you have any specific questions, I'll stop there.
Not a question, just great coverage of the holiday lights recycling. I heard it all over the media. So that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Is there an electronic collection date yet for Peoria?
We have a permanent location, so things can always go to Kusakowski and Town Line Road. There is no fee for anything other than CRTs, which would be the larger televisions or the larger computer monitors, and that's $10. Otherwise, everything is free.
So it's free, ongoing.
Ongoing,
Okay.
year round. Yep.
Do we have any information about what people can do with like recycling Christmas trees in the season?
That one's a little harder. We're working to get more information on that. Right now, the best thing that can be done is you can still take them to Better Earth Compost. They will accept them. In Peoria, you can put them out at your curb that they're collected. Sometimes you can find somebody with a pond that will take them. The recommendation that I make for a lot of people is if you have the space to put it in the backyard, set it up against the fence, something like that. It provides habitat for birds throughout the winter, and then in the spring, cut it up, put it with your yard waste.
Could we possibly create some social media information that we could get out?
Definitely, yes.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Let's see. Do you have anything for care and treatment or EMA?
No.
Nothing. Okay, I guess we'll jump right into the HHS campus updates. Do you have anything for the Board of Health?
Actually, just briefly for the Board of Health. Right. So at our last Board of Health meeting, the board did extend our current strategic plan. To give a little bit of background, we are a nationally accredited health department, so we routinely do strategic planning. Our last plan, or our current plan, we were on kicked off January 1st of 2020. So you can imagine that we've had to extend that plan a few times. But our board did approve an extension till December 31st of 2024, which means that in 2024, in the spring, we will start actively starting our strategic planning process. So be on the lookout for feedback. You guys are considered internal and external partners for the Board of Health. So we want to make sure we get different lenses on how we can provide direction and governance as a health department. At the same time, our community health needs assessment is also starting to ramp up, and so you'll start seeing surveys and data collection requests in different communities, and that really dictates the community's feedback of what we should prioritize and focus. And currently our focus is around obesity, mental health, and healthy eating, active living. Environmental Health launched an online system to pay for their annual food licenses. This just kicked off. Our annual license time starts end of October, really mostly in November, and then we'll go into December 31st. It's a slow uptake to change the course of how our businesses routinely pay us, but we'll start working on really engaging them in the spring so that in 2024 we'll start activating that. And just to give feedback, one check that comes in for environmental health will at minimum touch 20 individuals in various departments in our county. By streamlining it, we really cut down on errors and omissions, issues in terms of handling, as well as workload for some of our staff. And then lastly, on December 7th, the health department, and we do this routinely, we close down for professional development, taking kind of a lens from our educators, largely because we have a lot of training that we're required to do as a grant entity. The Illinois Department of Public Health received a workforce grant from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, and they're building out a large-scale workforce training plan. And so through some conversations that we had, we are going to be utilized as a guinea pig to help develop the statewide workforce training plan for local health departments. So one of the subcontractees, which is the University of Illinois Chicago School of Public Health, along with Region 5, which is a 6-state region for public health, will be coming in on the 7th and actually leading our team into intensive training on systems of change. So we'll be talking about key topic areas such as diving into STIs, maternal and child health, violence reduction, facilities management planning for our new building, and workforce recruitment. So all of that will be led by UIC. So we're very excited about being guinea pigs on the 7th. Any questions for me?
I just have one. Could you make a couple comments about, I noticed in your notes that you had expanded your violence program. Just if you could make a couple comments about that.
Yeah, so we went and released our request for proposals for the South Side. And so we received, went through the bid process, received 2 actual proposals, and the one that was scored highest was House of Hope. And so they've actually started implementation. Contracts have been signed, and actually, and to kind of understand the cure violence in general, I'd be more than happy to ever do a presentation just on that topic for you. But it's a public health idea that we've used historically for tuberculosis, as well as for smallpox vaccination and polio, where instead of someone in a white coat, especially male, going into villages in Pakistan or Afghanistan to talk about vaccination, you're actually getting usually a lived experienced person from that village, a trained elder, usually a woman, to talk to families about the importance of vaccinations and what it means. And then using that trust capital and linking them to services, specifically vaccinations or medication. Using that model, epidemiologists actually applied it towards violence reduction, understanding that violence itself has the same trajectory and kind of recognition as any other communicable disease. And so one of our hotspots in Peoria is actually the South Side, so we'll be working with them to start doing that. But that does mean that part of that grant we do like some of the grants that we even receive in the state, we'll do a lump sum payout and then start having them draw against that because they have to develop a workforce really quickly. And this is a small non-for-profit because they are well trusted in their community. So again, building not only that capacity to do the work, but also workforce that's often neglected or overlooked in our high-risk communities. So if you want me to ever present more in detail on cure violence, I'll be more than happy to.
Yeah, I think we could benefit from that and maybe what's been going on in the East Bluff, because that's a more, it's an older program. Right?
So East Bluff, we had to put on pause. Our awardee was PCAB. They received a federal grant. That federal grant ended, and so they did not have the capacity to sustain operations outside of our violence reduction programming. They did a lot of fundraising. They actually, I think, continue to do this all the way through October. But we're never able to make the difference of that large scale. And it was a multi-million federal dollar grant. So it was about, I want to say, close to 80% of their budget. So they kind of have to reset. And so while they're resetting, we were able to then transition to the South Side.
Thank you. Any other questions? So last now we have the Health Campus update. I asked Scott to give a kind of a broad presentation of where we're at. I know some of us may not be following it too closely, but to kind of see where we're at, the progress we've made, just an overall update.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think the intention is not for me to do all of the talking today. Board Member Ruland is here with us as well, and obviously Monica. And then we also have Kais Jennison from Farnsworth Group is here also. So every time we've come to this committee over the last 2+ years and made a presentation, we've always shown this slide to show you the entire process and where we are in that process. And we are early in the construction process in terms of where we're at. It's technically one of the final steps in the entire life, but it's the longest lasting step, most likely, in the life of the project. The next several slides are going to be photos of the property, starting with when we closed the building and started doing demolition. You can see midway through demolition, for those of you that remember, we had a tunnel between the main building and the administration building. Some of the foundation of the main building here has been excavated, so you can actually see the tunnel. Bottom right shows the property once all the demolition had been complete, and they had done most of the River City had done most of the backfill work. For reference point, Sheridan is here. We did, during the course of setting foundations and components of the foundations, unearth an underground storage tank. That tank was considerably old in its age. It was single-walled. It did have fuel in it. And that tank obviously needed to be removed once the fuel was pumped out of it, and the soil around the tank needed to be remediated because the ends of the tank had actually corroded to a point where we had seepage and leakage out of the tank and into the soils around it. Once that remediation was done, though, we were able to start working on the footings, which is the primary component of the foundation work. So these slides show that, along with some underground plumbing, because if you recall, we're doing a slab on grade, which means that we don't have a basement or a crawl space in this project. So we put plumbing in before we start to pour foundations and the slabs themselves. That way, all that work is done before the concrete goes in. These are some more recent photos. Top left is structural steel that is sitting on the property, waiting to be erected. And you can see in the bottom left, some steel has already started to go up. A lot of the masonry for the 2 stair towers and the elevator shaft has gone up, and then you can see that with on the right with some of the drone footage that River City captures on a weekly basis. This photo and the next photo are the 2 most recent image captures that we have. They're both drone footage. You can see, again, Sheridan is on the right side of the property, so that means the north side of the property is on the bottom of this picture. This area here is the community room. That's scheduled to be poured here, weather permitting, sometime this week. And then we've got the south stair tower, the elevator shaft, and the east stair tower continues to go up. Actually, in this photo, I believe the south stair tower and the elevator shaft are pretty well complete. And then basically same condition, just directly overhead from the drone as opposed to from the side. So we wanted to spend some time today talking a little bit about contingencies and allowances, because there's been some discussion based on what Member Ruland has heard and what I've talked to the chairman about in terms of change orders and whatnot. So we wanted to spend a little bit of time today talking about contingencies and allowances so that we could ensure that everybody's on the same page when we talk about change orders and how they're paid for. Start with some definitions. Contingencies are buckets of funds that are in the project budget that are to cover unforeseen expenses. So there's things that didn't come up. Those might, and we'll talk a little about what some examples might be here in a second. An allowance is also a bucket of funds that's in the project budget, and that's to cover unknowns that were at the time of bid. And so there is a difference between unforeseen and unknown, and we'll talk through those. So we have a number of different, we have two different types of contingencies and several different allowances for this project. The first type of contingency is our largest, that is the construction contingency. That is controlled by River City Construction based on our contract documents with River City as our construction manager at risk. Some examples of how that might be used would be unforeseen site conditions, extra winter weather conditions, or where there is a difference between what was designed and the constructability on the site. The second major bucket that we have is our exterior cladding rebid contingency. We control that directly. The example that we've actually already approved, we did that as part of the rebid process, is we chose to put brick on the facade of the community room instead of an exterior cladding product. Future potential uses of this bucket of money could be any add or deduct that we would want to potentially initiate. We have 4 different allowances on the project. These are much smaller in dollar value. The first is for site demolition and earthwork. That's controlled by River City. What we've used it for to this point is an alternate on the geopiers. Geopiers are part of the foundations. And then based on soil conditions of the property, they're going to need to put down a certain amount of rock during the winter so that the crane has access to put up the structural steel. As we go through freeze and thaw, if we didn't do this, the site would become very muddy, and the crane would not be able to. They would not be able to get the crane in and out and move it around the site to be able to put up that structural steel. Number 2 is our building concrete allowance. Again, that's controlled by River City. This would be any unknown expense related to the slab on grade, or we also have slab on deck. So the second story will be a slab on deck, and again, the ground floor, the first floor is slab on grade. So an example of an expense that has been applied to this allowance is River City has recommended, and we're going to be adding to the slab pours an additive that will assist in drawing the moisture out of the concrete. That's critically important when it comes to being able to get the rest of the building up once that concrete has been poured, and as it relates to manufacturer's warranties for all of our flooring products and any adhesive that is used to adhere that flooring product. They require the concrete that it's being adhered to have a certain moisture content. And if it doesn't have that moisture content, then we could potentially have an invalid warranty for those floor covering products. Third is the steel allowance. At this point, it's unused, but it's controlled by River City. This would be used for any unknown expense related to structural steel. And the 5th is a general works allowance, again, controlled by River City, and this is just kind of a general catch-all allowance for something that may come up in the project. In terms of the approval process that we have for change orders that would be paid for by one of the contingencies or allowances, we have in your rules of order an internal process that, depending on the value of that change order, it is required to be approved by the board or this committee, or jointly, Member Rulin, myself, and Monica. If those change orders and approvals associated with them are tied back to any of the buckets except the one that we directly control, It's more of an endorsement than an approval, because River City contractually has the authority and the flexibility to make those changes. That being said, River City is the contractor, Farnsworth as the architect, and myself representing us as the owner. All three parties have to sign every change order. Obviously, I'm not going to sign the change order if we haven't gone through our process. What's the impact of the change orders to our guaranteed maximum price? There actually is none at this point. As we talked about during the lead up to awarding the contracts and setting the total project budget and the GMP can only be altered if we, the county, through an action of the board, adds or deletes a major scope item. So an example of where we would add something is maybe we want to have the main foyer floor be a customized terrazzo instead of polished concrete, or maybe we would want to, as board member Ruland has been saying, maybe we decide that all of a sudden we're going to have all the plumbing fixtures be gold plated. That's something that's our choice. Once the project has kicked off and we're under construction, we're making a choice to add something. That's on us. The GMP would increase as a result of that. Maybe going in the other direction, let's say for some reason we decided that instead of brick and the exterior cladding, we suddenly decided we wanted to have vinyl siding. Odds are vinyl siding is going to be substantially cheaper from a first cost standpoint than those materials. That we could move in that direction, and that may result in a reduction of the gross of the guaranteed maximum price. But again, that can only happen if there is an action taken by the board. What's the impact on the project and on us if all the contingencies and all the allowances are exhausted? What happens is River City loses money at no risk to us. Full stop. That's why we have a guaranteed maximum price. That's why we have a construction manager at risk. River City holds all of that risk on this project. What it also means, though, is any unused contingency and or allowances that would be left at the end of the project, but that are not returned to the original funding source at the end of the project. So let's say, for example, we have $200,000 of unspent allowances and contingencies when the project is complete. That will roll back to either of the health department's fund, the ARPA fund, the general fund, or the solid waste management fund, depending on where we're at in the funding process. So there is opportunity for those costs to be, or there's savings by avoiding those costs. Obviously, we actively manage on the county's behalf to working with River City and working with Farnsworth to ensure that the maximum amount of contingency and allowances are going to be left at the end of the project. So every 2 weeks, the three of us, plus the construction team and the design team, have a progress meeting on property to review a whole bunch of information. It starts with safety considerations and days lost work for weather and whatnot. Happy to report we've had 0 days lost due to any safety issues. We have a perfect safety record at this point in time. But we also talk about a variety of things, including the contingency and allowance report. So this report is going to be broken up into those 6 buckets that we just walked through, All right, they're in the wrong order. I apologize. We'll start with this, and then we'll go back. So the first is the construction contingency. You can see there's been quite a bit of activity. We started with just short of $795,000 in this bucket. We've used $378,351 to date, which means we've got a little bit more than $416,500. You'll notice that COR stands for change order. They are numbered. Change order number 1, you actually already approved. That was within the spending limits. Change order 2, change order 7 is pending. That is related to how the electrical engineering design was done for variable air volume boxes, or VAVs. That's a component of the HVAC system. We continue to work with both Farnsworth and River City on a solution for that, hoping to get that price mitigated further. And then there's change order 11, which is also pending. That's just a timing issue more than it being an unresolved issue. When we put this report together, we had just received number 11, and so Terry and I had not had a full chance when we created this to review it and determine if it was acceptable or not. We've since had a chance to do that. It is acceptable. That change order is related to the as I said earlier, the rock that we need to put down during construction this winter for the crane. Exterior clad rebid contingency. That's the one that we control. We started with almost $322,000, and we've used only $27,300 to date. The allowances, the earthwork allowance. So we've approved change order 3, which is an alternate for our geopiers, which again is part of the foundation system. And you can see they've actually split the temporary access, site access and roads, which again is that rock project for winter weather, between here and in the main construction contingencies. We started with $50,000, and River State has exhausted that at this point, so that one is done. Building concrete allowance, we started with $10,000. We've got 0 left because we are adding we're using that additive into the concrete mix for the purposes of pulling the moisture out of the concrete. And then the last 2, the steel allowance and the general works allowance, they're $5,000 and $20,000 respectively, and we have not touched those yet. Last thing that we wanted to put up before we schedule this is the most recent one. So we've got a master schedule for the entire project. You would not be able to read it if we put it up on the screen. In fact, I'm not even sure we could fit it on the screen. But every 2 weeks we get an update of this. The orange items are critical path items that we need to get done in the next 4 weeks. The green ones are important tasks, but they're not critical path tasks. So high level, that's kind of where we're at. Terry, is there anything you want to add before we open it up to questions?
I think I'd rather handle it with questions.
Okay.
Specifics to curiosity.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, we're happy to answer your questions.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
I have one that may already have an answer. I may not be aware of it. Do we have a naming plan for this campus as to what this campus will be officially named on the side called? Is that decided, or is that?
I don't know if we've actually taken a vote on it, but we continue to work with Health and Human Services. Obviously, we started as a multiple building campus. It's maybe not a campus anymore because it's only one building. But for the moment, we continue to use Health and Human Services. I think in my communications, I've transitioned from campus to project. But obviously, we don't call it a project when we're all done. But I would say we haven't had a formal conversation to go beyond that at this point.
I know of a company in Florida that'll do it for $90,000 if we want them to do it.
So what?
Select a name for us.
Oh. No, Phil can select the name.
I was just going to comment, and Brian beat me to it because I know we spent $75,000 with that company.
75, I'm sorry.
And I thought it was throwing money away. I had a good name for it. I called it Heading Home because that's what people oftentimes do in the later part of life. They head to a nursing facility and so forth. I could have saved us, that amount of money, but that didn't make any headway with the powers to be.
I thought-
We'll handle the naming later.
I'm sorry,
We get
yeah.
to that, but we need to get back to,
I'm with-
to questions
I'm with- I'm with
regarding.
you.
I just had to throw you a curveball.
I know. We just need that. Why we have the experts here, and I do appreciate you attending today and Farnsworth being here.
Personally, I wouldn't feel that this little committee of the three of us would carry enough weight to name this project. I think that's a function of the entire board myself.
But while we have you guys here, if the board, if the committee has questions regarding the status,
I guess I'm curious in looking over that chart. At one place it said like missing footing, and I can't remember how much that.
On the garage, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess, I guess I don't understand why that's at our contingency expense, because you'd have to have a footing. You can't have a building.
I guess.
Let me explain. In the specifics of the missing footing, there is a heavier slab in the floor of the coroner's area. One edge of that slab did not have a foundation under it to hold that slab and the weight of ambulances and the traffic that they bring into the building. When that was discovered, it was rectified. The architects engineered and produced the drawings that were needed to replace that. In the grand scheme of things, in the event of an oversight, we have to go back and imagine, what if it hadn't been overlooked? There would be value, there would have been cost, which would have changed our original GMP. So we look at these things, some within a guardrail of what's expected on a large project. Is it possible to miss something? And whether or not that is specifically someone's fault, and whether or not the county is receiving the value of that product being in place. That cost would have been there to begin with. Yes, we've lost any advantages that would come from competitive bidding, but in that particular instance, it's an example of something that's probably happened. I don't know, Scott, would you say 3 or 4 items on our list that were by a general consensus agreement between River City and Farnsworth and our group of 3, that there should be some relief, some responsibility taken when something does get missed. In the initial discovery of, I'm not talking specifically about the footing now, but in the initial discovery of those items that we've discovered, it was, at least I would say, impressive that Farnsworth came to the table quickly and said, we did have a problem here, and we're doing our best to review internal procedures to make sure it doesn't happen again. And they have negotiated in good faith to restore the value of those things at a reflective price that would indicate that maybe we would have paid under competitive bidding had it been in the original quote. So to think that, for instance, you can look at one of those items there, it says 116,000. It's pending for that reason, but there is substantial reduction in that cost once we have an exact number, which has not been settled, but it is a very positive negotiation and one that I think will end to the county's benefit. Then that will no longer say pending. We'll agree, we'll move on. We have a working relationship that's productive, there are things that do take place that everyone can say, I wish it hadn't, but the notion that we might not have to pay for something entirely because it didn't get bid originally, the value is in the work that we're receiving. So if we're coming to terms on how that's managed, I think we're doing a really good job of that, and I would applaud rather than blame Farnsworth for some, maybe one, I would say a major oversight and several smaller ones. But I think they're doing the right thing, and they're restoring us back to the situation we would have been in had we discovered this from day one.
So I think the technical term is errors and omissions, right? Is that the technical
I would.
term?
I don't want to characterize what it is. This isn't. It's not a legal process as long as we're working in good faith with each other to get beyond those. So errors and omissions would be sounds more legal to me, but yeah, I guess you could characterize it that way.
But I'm assuming part of it too that everyone takes into consideration when you're doing it is not only is it the actual cost of it, but if it impacts, if it delays anything, because time is money also. So are those taken into consideration too when you were dealing with something that?
In the very initial demolition, when we were doing abatement, we found a lot more asbestos than what was defined and allowed in the quote. You guys probably all remember that because we voted on that first change order. That does have an impact to our schedule. It took a long time to get through that, although I have to hand it to those folks. They staffed up to race through it quicker than what they originally thought it might be. For the most part, we've had a couple of delays. You know, the weather on Monday, we were supposed to pour concrete. That's been rescheduled to tomorrow. We're at a point in the project where there's so much going on, underground plumbing and electrical raceways, that if we don't pour concrete over there on this day, instead we do it on Wednesday, we're still making progress everywhere else. So it's hard to judge whether or not those things, those daily weather delays might hold us back from a final completion date. I would say getting the building down, getting the abatement done, those things have much more of an impact on our final date. So,
Terry, just to add to that, yeah, I'll share what River City has said about final project completion. River City continues to stand by as long as we have from a construction standpoint, an average winter or better, this project will be delivered on time. The only reason, at this point, from River City's perspective, the only reason why it would not be delivered on time is if we have a worse winter than usual.
What was that date? What's that date again, Monica?
Not that I'm counting down the dates. End of October of 2024.
Question, how are we doing on material availability? Because in the past, a few years ago, that was a huge thing. Are we okay on timeline of the materials that we need?
What was pretty scary was going into this would have been steel delivery. But the fact is that most of our steel is fabricated. It's arriving daily. I think there's 26 flatbed semis either arrived or on their way. And that, in fact, if you went by there today, I think you'd see a crane showing their stuff. They should be starting some steel erection other than the couple of pieces that they've had. It should be starting pretty steadily now. And I haven't heard anything other than maybe there's some holdups in coroner's equipment, freezers, and refrigeration. I think there was maybe some specifications that were late getting clarified, but short of that, I think it's pretty.
Yeah, I would say supply-wise, building materials, we're in really good shape. All the long lead items have already been ordered by either River City or where it's the appropriate sub. Where, as Terry mentioned where we've seen some challenges, and this is in the world of coolers, chillers, autopsy equipment. There's literally 2 providers, and neither one of them are very easy to work with. And so it's
Business opportunity right there.
Yeah, it's constant. It requires constant effort on our part, which is, shouldn't be the case.
But that, from a planning cycle, sounds like you're doing a great job of identifying those challenging materials or potential lead time ones that.
I'd like to take credit for that, but I think we have some really good project managers at River City. These guys are on top of it. And when an RFI comes in looking, that's a request for information. When they need things clarified, they're on it immediately. That weekly report, nothing stays on there for more than a day or two. It seems like they just really make sure that if a supplier has a question, answer it promptly so they can get on about their work.
Scott, can you speak at all about, we're about 40% of contingency that we've used this far into the project. Can River City or anybody project how that's suiting us?
We actually attempted to try and project that. We're going to try, if we could have, we were going to try and show it as a chart or a graph. River City will say that now that we're out of the ground, the need for contingencies and allowances will drastically drop off. So, they feel pretty confident that yes, there's still going to be some drawdown on these, but it's not going to be significant. Terry or Monica, I don't recall at the moment what their average is in terms of unused contingency at the end of an average project, but if either one of you can.
I recall maybe conversations about routinely 25% doesn't get used in most projects, and I think somebody at River City stated that we've never done a project where we've used all of it. So that coupled with the allowances, on the other hand, I would say assume that they will all be spent. They are a budget line item, and that work is going to get done, and it's probably going to all get spent. Contingency, on the other hand, based on, look at the biggest things we've seen, primarily abatement of hazardous material. Without tearing down the walls, you can't see what's behind them. There's a lot of plumbing pipes wrapped in asbestos, a lot of heating and cooling systems. The underground storage tank, had that been surfaced ahead of time, yeah, but it is it's a fairly expensive thing. We were fortunate that it was old, because in the case of an older tank, the EPA allows you some discretion as far as how much more remediation you have to do. So we followed to the letter of the law the pre-74 storage tank mitigation rules, and everybody, including the engineers, River City, Farnsworth, everybody was in on those meetings, and we feel really comfortable. We've covered that well for a very minimal amount of cost. There is at least a possibility that had we identified that potential early, it probably would have cost us more. We've had a lot of the folks involved step up and do their part on trying to lower the cost for that, and the engineers specifically assigned to that said that typically when that gets bid, there is a fear factor that goes into the contractor's bid, because you don't really know what you're going to find until you dig it up. Here, we found it somewhat inadvertently, and then everybody stepped up to the plate. It was amazing to me how quick that got done, because I've seen projects come to a screeching halt for months in that situation. It didn't happen here. It was days, 2 weeks, maybe at the most 2 weeks, we were back in forward motion.
And I guess just last thing I just wanted to the only way the GMP would go more than what it is would be by our action. So there's nothing that's going to happen that would cause this to go over budget unless we take the action to do so.
And
Correct, and even if it does go over budget, Mr. Chairman, it's River City's financial problem, not ours.
Unless it's our choice.
Yeah.
Unless
and,
one
and
choice
understand,
Yep.
please try to understand, if you hear that, I heard they got a big change order, if you hear something that concerns you, I'm a phone call away. We're staying really tight with this project. We know exactly, what's happening and when at all times. I'm really impressed with the ability of the architects and the general contractor to communicate well and promptly. And so, if you have any questions, don't lose any sleep. Pick up the phone.
I appreciate everything that you've done, Scott and Monica.
I can't resist. Just having an excellent architect and a construction company, you can see the value of having an owner's rep. And I'm not going to be on this board, forever. But the next time you do construction, I hope anyone who's sitting here remembers how important it is to have somebody there with experience and understanding of the process.
Any other questions? Okay.